right now, Mark Levine on his way to become the next controller of New York City. As affordability and the city's finances play a key role in the mayoral race, his opinions have a bigger impact than ever before. Mark Levine going on the record. From new polling to mudslinging between Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo.
Rent-stabilized units, when they're vacant, should only be rented to people who need affordable housing, not people like Zohran Mamdani.
The important thing is that we build enough housing such that we're not picking and choosing who gets to have stability.
The race for New York City mayor kicking into high gear. And discussing the future of Social Security with AARP. PIX on Politics starts right now.
This is PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to PIX on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Mannarino. So let's talk about new polling, showing where the race for New York City mayor stands as candidates hit the ground running in the general election. Here we go. The data from Siena College shows Zohran Mamdani with a significant lead, 44% of the vote, followed by Andrew Cuomo with 25%, Curtis Sliwa, right, with 12%, and then Eric Adams at 7% behind Curtis Sliwa, and then Jim Weldon. So we're going to dive into those numbers more with our Henry Rossoff later in the show. But as Zohran Mamdani holds his steady lead, conversations are already happening now on the practicality of the Democratic nominee's bold ideas for the city. Mamdani vowing for a more affordable city for all, but that means squaring away big budget changes on the state and city level. When it comes to the city's finances, there will also be a new top financial guy next year. Mark Levine, the Democratic nominee for comptroller, is going on the record. Mr. Levine, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here.
And so let me begin with you. No real challenger heading into November, so you're likely to be sworn in January as the new controller, right? So if elected, what is your first order of business when you're looking at where things stand right now in the way finances are being rolled out?
Dan, you know we have the worst affordability crisis in New York City history, driven by rents that are out of control. And I'm going to use the office of the comptroller to tackle this. We have real tools, including investments in the pension fund to finance new affordable housing that might not get otherwise built. Also using the powers of audit and oversight to get HPD and the housing agencies building more housing quickly, more efficiently. We can do these things, move the needle on affordability. This is what I've done as borough president. I've made this my #1 priority in my current role. We've got thousands of units moving, and I'm going to continue this fight as comptroller.
And it's also really the priority of the Democratic nominee for mayor right now, and that is Zohran Mamdani, right? Do you fully endorse Mamdani as the Democratic nominee?
Well, as I've said to you in the past, I'm a proud Democrat, proud to be on the Democratic slate citywide. I certainly support the Democratic slate. Yes, it includes Assemblymember Mamdani. And I'm also running to be comptroller, a job that must be totally independent from the mayor. And I will support the mayor when they're doing the right thing, and I will push back when that's necessary. That is what it means to be an independent comptroller.
Yeah, I mean, one of the jobs of the comptroller is, of course, to be a check and balance on the mayor's office, right? And at times put the two offices at odds. How do you foresee a relationship between the two of you?
Look, I think we share the goal of improving affordability in New York, and I am rooting for the next mayor to succeed as a proud New Yorker. I'm also going to make sure we have accountability. And that we push the city to be better when necessary, while calling out the successes when appropriate. That's what it means to be balanced and independent. This is the comptroller I'll be.
And you've seen some of the proposals that Mr. Mamdani wants to get done, right? Free buses, free child care, freezing the rent. He wants to do this by raising taxes. So how do you see that playing out as the comptroller? Are you in favor of a tax raise for the rich?
Well, I certainly believe in progressive taxation. I think people who have done well in society need to pay their fair share. My preference always would be to see that on the national level so we avoid states competing with each other. But in a crisis, I think everything needs to be on the table. I will say that I think there's a lot to be won by making New York City government more efficient. This is a city where it costs $5 million to build a park bathroom. There's just enormous waste and cost overruns in New York City government right now. And I think that even in tough fiscal times, we can do a lot more for New Yorkers by making the government more efficient.
Yeah, just on the tax issue, right? Because just so I'm clear, you want to say on the national level, but he's pitching it to Albany and Albany lawmakers. So are you in favor of that, specifically for the rich?
I would support it in the case of a real financial crisis.
Are we in one?
We might be. We might be. I think we face a difficult fiscal outlook in the coming year, which I'm happy to talk more about.
Yeah, are you talking about that because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. and some of the budget cuts that are coming to New York City with the Trump administration?
Look, it is direct financial hits from the Trump administration, which is taking money out of the city budget and the state budget. It is economic policies coming from the Trump White House, which are creating chaos with this insane tariff policy. It is a slowdown in tourism to New York, particularly international visitors.
Which we just saw in some numbers that came
Yeah,
out.
we had to revise the expectation down 2 million. We're going to get 2 million fewer international visitors, tons of jobs on the line there, and just a climate of uncertainty. And I talked to business leaders in the city who say, I don't know the cost of lumber in 6 weeks. I can't do investment in that climate. And we're seeing the impact already.
Let me break that down little by little, right?
Yeah.
And let's begin then with the economic climate the way it is and the uncertainty on many levels.
Yeah.
Is it the time then for something like free buses and free child care and freezing the rent?
Look, it is the right goal to want free child care in New York City, something I've called for. This should be a basic function of government, just the same way that free kindergarten
But you got to pay for it.
Yes, and that's going to be a challenge in this fiscal climate, but not impossible. I think if we can find savings in the broader city government, in a city government which has a budget of $115 billion, if there's support from the state and federal government, that may be tough in this climate. But I think the goal of making New York more affordable for working families is one that I wholeheartedly endorse, and I'll work with the next mayor to achieve.
The goals, though, that he's pitching and the affordability things that you're talking about, the money has to come from somewhere. And you are the financial officer now, the CEO of the finances for the city, right? Do you think that income needs to come from somewhere, or the way the budget currently looks, you have enough money to do some of these things?
Yes. Look, we want a growing economy first and foremost. We want this to be a city where businesses are investing and growing and hiring, because that creates more tax revenue that we can use for social programs to support people in need, people on the margins, and create opportunity for them. I think we also need a city government which is much more efficient and needs to be modernized. There we can find probably billions in savings over time. And yes, ultimately, we need to consider increasing taxes, particularly if we're in desperate financial straits. So all that has to be on the table.
You know, looming kind of over all of this is President Donald Trump, who has already clawed back money from New York City. We saw that play out. You are taking over for somebody who fought to get that money back. You vowed to fight President Trump's budget cuts. How would you fight back?
Yeah, look, this is bad. We've already got cuts to public health. We're seeing cuts to housing, to hospital care. It's hitting New York hard, and the city government's going to have to plug a lot of those holes. It's why I called for increasing our reserve funding in this budget so that we have a cushion to fill in gaps for critical services.
Did they do that enough?
They did not. They did not. I'm very disappointed in that. Leaves us with less tools to take on the cuts ahead. We're going to work with our congressional allies to fight these cuts in Washington. And I think ultimately the comptroller should have the independent power to sue when the president does things that are blatantly illegal, like he did when he clawed $80 million out of a city bank account, money that we had already had a contract for and already spent. So I'm going to fight back on every front to protect the finances of the city.
Yeah, and lawsuits can certainly slow down the process, right? Yes. But that could just delay the inevitable of him taking money back. In this case, it actually didn't play out the way he wanted it to. The city got the money back. So your plan is lawsuits.
That's one of the tools.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need political change in Washington. It's critical that we take back the House a year from now, and we need to support our current House and Senate leadership in fighting these cuts.
Let me ask you that, because this is maybe not outside the purview of the comptroller, but obviously getting back the House is a topic of conversation that's playing around the country right now. Are you in favor of redrawing the lines in New York if what plays out in Texas goes through?
You have to fight fire with fire. We never asked for mid-decade redistricting. This is a fight started by extreme MAGA partisans in Texas. But in a world in which they take those extraordinary measures, I think blue states like New York absolutely must. And I want to call out Assemblymember Lasher and Senator Janaris, who put forward a plan for New York to do that. A little more complicated here. It requires a constitutional change.
Right.
But we can't unilaterally disarm. The stakes are too high.
And you mentioned the cost of goods, right, and an increase in price of goods that could come from the tariffs. So if you're a comptroller, how do you battle that? when it's playing out in real time?
How do you battle?
The tariffs and the increase of cost of goods to get businesses not to shut down, the mom and pop shops not to close. Is there something that the Office of a Comptroller can do in infusing money into some of these small businesses?
In the nonprofit sector, which is a huge component of the economy, when the federal government is slowing down support or canceling grants as they have been, the least the city can do is pay out its own contracts faster. We have been scandalously slow to pay nonprofits for work they've already done, to the tune of billions of dollars. It's bringing the nonprofit sector to its knees. This is an area I talked a lot about in the primary. This will be a top priority for me. Comptroller can help move the needle on this. I think more broadly, we can try and compensate for challenges from Washington by making New York City itself a more hospitable environment to start a small business in, by reducing red tape and fines. The number of agencies you have to get approval from if you want to sell a gallon of milk in a corner store in New York City is absolutely beyond belief. And if we can reduce those barriers, I think it will help compensate for the challenges coming from Washington.
Really good conversation. I appreciate you coming on. Can you settle a debate for me? Is it comptroller or controller?
Wow. I'm going with comptroller, but we don't judge here.
Yeah, okay. I just, because I hear both. I'm going to say both are right.
You can also just call me Mark.
Good to see you, all right?
Thank you.
Coming up next, everybody, on the campaign trail in the race for mayor, the biggest general election race the city has seen in years. Some of the top names in New York City politics battling it out, from Cuomo coining a Zohran law to Mamdani's anti-Trump tour. Henry Rossoff's been there every step of the way, giving us an election update right after a quick break.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
Welcome back, everybody. So it's been a busy week in the race for New York City mayor. Plenty of mudslinging between former Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani, plus new polling and a big endorsement for Mayor Eric Adams. Let's bring in PIX 11's Henry Rossoff, our man on the campaign trail day in and day out. Henry, good to have you here.
Great to be here.
With what former governor is now calling out to be a real big issue for Zohran Mamdani when it comes to rent-stabilized apartments.
Well, Mr. Cuomo certainly wants it to be an issue. What he's calling his proposal is, quote-unquote, Zohran's law. He's targeting Mr. Mamdani for having a $2,300 one-bedroom rent-stabilized apartment in Astoria. And the baseline case that Mr. Cuomo makes is that that sort of affordable unit should go to someone who truly needs it, not an assemblyman who makes more than $140,000 a year and who has a wife who also works and makes a decent income. What Mr. Mamdani has said in response is, one, he doesn't plan on staying there forever. Two, he got it when he did not make very much money and has just basically stayed there. And three, this policy is meant to target him and doesn't think about the real-world consequences, because what Mr. Cuomo is saying is when a unit like this becomes available, it should only go to people who truly need it. 30% of their income should go to rent. Mr. Mamdani says, well, you're going to take away listings from middle-class people, and why are you demanding people be rent-burdened just to get an affordable place to live? So that's the back and forth on this.
This could really affect over 1 million people in these rent-stabilized apartments. But now Zohran Mamdani has come out with his own accusations, kind of trying to link Andrew Cuomo to Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, tentative link, I think, is the most correct way of phrasing this. So he's drawing the line between Mr. Cuomo, a longtime associate who once was his campaign finance chair, and also a guy he's done real estate deals with. That same person has also done real estate deals with Jeffrey Epstein. So not a direct link, a very, very indirect link. But the main point of the social media video that Mr. Mamdani posted is that we don't know, and this is true, we don't know very much about how Mr. Cuomo made money as a consultant between the time he was former governor and now between a couple years later him running for mayor. There's sort of mystery dealings that happen there, and Mr. Mamdani raises a fair point. We don't know a lot about that. Mr. Cuomo's yet to answer for it.
He has not come out and said anything.
At this point, when we're recording this conversation, no.
Okay. And then lastly, on this very busy week in politics, former Governor David Paterson, who said he wasn't going to really endorse until September when he had this whole idea of a poll to see who would amount to challenge Zohran Mamdani, endorsed, and he endorsed Mayor Adams. Yeah, this was more about personal than polling, he admitted. He said there wasn't enough buy-in to this idea that a mid-September poll should sort of create the front runner to challenge Mr. Mamdani, who's the Democratic nominee, of course. If you look at the polling, in fact, Mr. Cuomo clearly, according to the most recent Siena poll, a very small sample, but this has been the pattern in a number of polls,
is clearly the #2 challenger. Mamdani's at about 44%. Mr. Cuomo's at close to 25%. So, but David Paterson endorsed Eric Adams. He says at this point, not enough people are buying into this idea of rallying around one person. I'm going to go with the guy I like. I'm going to go with the guy I have a long-standing relationship with, and that's Mayor Adams.
Well, it wasn't that other people didn't rally around that idea of the December poll. The candidates themselves did not rally around
well,
it.
Cuomo said yes, Mamdani said yes, but Sliwa and Adams said no. And you know, you need all four, or at least all three, minus Sliwa, the Republican, to do this.
Curious to know if that press conference did David Paterson explain why he has switched from Andrew Cuomo, because he endorsed Cuomo in the primary.
Yeah, well, he said he was my best contender in a Democratic primary. Had Mayor Adams decided to run in that primary, my decision might have been different. But now, staring at the field as is, I believe the guy who would best run the city is the guy who currently running the city, Eric Adams. That was his explanation.
Understood. All very interesting out there each and every day, Henry. I know you're pounding the pavement,
trying
getting
to
the
keep up.
answers. Yes, I know. There's a lot. Up next, everybody, our friends at AARP joining me to discuss the importance of Social Security as the program marks 90 years. We'll be right back with that.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
Welcome back. So AARP recently released its national survey ahead of the 90th anniversary of Social Security. The results show that Americans recognize the importance of Social Security, but there are some serious concerns about the future of it. So joining me now, the state director for AARP, New York, Beth Finkel. Beth, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
So let's talk about this, right? Because it's such an important part of people's lives, and some of the findings that you did in this survey, right? There's this reliance on Social Security, and an even bigger fear, though, right now, at this point in time, that it actually won't last. So how are you kind of calming those fears?
Well, it's a combination because, yes, Social Security will be there. Although in the survey, it was very interesting that 18 to 24-year-olds, 25% of them said they had absolutely no confidence that Social Security would be there for them. But you know what? We have all paid into the system. I don't know about you, but I started paying into Social Security when I was 16 years old.
First job.
Working in a basement in a women's clothing store in Queens. And I've been paying in for a lot of decades. And so I earned it, we earned it. And that's what AARP is letting people know, that we need to let our legislators know that we earned this. We paid into it.
Yeah, for some folks, it was a lifetime of paying into it, right?
Yes.
So how vital is it for people, for Social Security nationwide, and especially here in the New York area, because it is such, especially in New York, so expensive to retire?
Yes. So there's almost 4 million Social Security recipients just here in New York State. And we should also mention that that money comes in, and it is an economic stimulus to New York State. As a matter of fact, $79 billion worth of economic stimulus to New York State. And let's face it, people who are dependent on Social Security are going out and getting that, taking that money in and spending it at their local grocery, their local bodega, their local drugstore, their local dry cleaner. So it's really, it's essential for the economy in New York, but it's essential for the individual. Actually, 20% of New Yorkers are reliant on Social Security alone for their total income. And you went back to the fear. So here's the concern.
Yeah.
The Social Security trustees who oversee the Social Security Trust Fund, they give out regular reports about the solvency of Social Security. And their last report said that in the year 2034, Social Security will have to reduce its payments out to each and every recipient by about 18%. Now, the average Social Security is $20,000 in New York. Right? Are you prepared to take an 18% cut? I mean, I'll get more than that. I'm going to tell you, I'm not ready to take.
Right.
And would you be ready to take? No. And so here we are. We've got 9 years to go. We need to tell our elected officials, get it together, bipartisan, come together, and solve for this, because it is solvable.
Right, and so you are an advocate for his members. I hear you talking about, calling your legislator up. What does the advocacy look like then for you in particular and AARP as a whole? Well,
for instance, to celebrate this 90th birthday, we have been having pizza pop-ups all across New York State, where we have legislators and Congress members invited, and they've been coming in, and we're making clear to them, and the public is making clear to them, is this is my slice of the pie, and do not mess with my slice of the pie. And so we're doing that. We're doing educating people, and we're making sure that people go and let their legislators know. Make that call, send that email, do what you need to do to make sure that your legislators know that this is absolutely a crucial, crucial issue.
Have you heard from them?
From our members? Absolutely. Absolutely. More than 80% of people that we surveyed in that said that Social Security is among the highest priorities for this country right now.
What about the lawmakers? Have you had conversations with them about this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, I think they all understand that Social Security is the third rail of politics. Don't mess with people's Social Security. You're going to hear from them. We had just recently in the administration, they tried to cut back services on the phone. And that would force people who maybe couldn't get in a car and go drive to the local Social Security office or wait in line or wait forever on a phone call to try to get through to your Social Security office. So we had millions of people who reached out to their legislators across the country, and the administration heard them and made adjustments. We will continue to do that.
All good information. Beth Finkel, I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on PIX on Politics. And our thanks again to AARP for coming on, and we'll be right back with a look at the week ahead and a special project that the PIX 11 team is working very hard on. And welcome back, everybody. So the PIX 11 political team very excited to announce some major events in our coverage of the New Jersey gubernatorial race. Pay attention here. Coming up at the end of next month, September 30th, PIX 11 has been chosen to host the New Jersey Lieutenant Governor debate, which will be held over at Kean University. The first time ever we're doing a statewide debate. We're going to have live coverage at the university leading up to and after that very debate. And then just a few days later, also at Kean University on October 3rd, we're going to be hosting a town hall with the candidates for governor. Democrat Mikey Sherrill, Republican Jack Ciattarelli. The team working very hard to get the questions that you want answered as we head into this very important election cycle that has not only New Jersey, but the country's attention. If you have questions that you want us to ask those candidates, any of them, send me an email, dan@pix11.com, and I'll make sure we ask one of your questions, okay? Thank you for watching another episode of PIX on Politics. I'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your day.